Most companies in America fail. 8 out of 10 fail in the first 3 years for one reason. They're never able to get their customer acquisition cost below the lifetime value of the customer. A fancy way of saying they go bankrupt advertising. When you get on Shark Tank, you get millions of people seeing your product the first time the night it airs, but then another 100 million eyeballs in syndication. Your customer acquisition cost sometimes goes to zero. And so it's a huge advantage. So if you're going to pitch me something that should be on Shark Tank, get on Shark Tank, because I'd much rather buy it there where I get the advantage of the platform. That's the secret sauce of Shark Tank. That's why it works. And that's why so many people want to get on there. That's one heck of a powerful platform.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, as always, I've got a real treat for you, but today it's a wonderful treat, folks. Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, joining us. How are you, sir?
Great to be here, Brad. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for piping in. I don't know where you were sitting right now. Where are you? New York?
No, I'm upstate New York on a lake, and I've got a wonderful studio here, and I like it this way.
How's the weather over there right now? It's about 120 out here.
Pretty nice.
Nice. Now, Kevin, I've watched you on Shark Tank. A lot of people, obviously, I think, know you from Shark Tank. Before Shark Tank, you were kind of an entrepreneur, business owner. You you started a software company. Is that correct?
Yep. I was started in the television industry, and obviously as things started to digitize, I saw the writing on the wall for software and went in that direction. And like every entrepreneur, you got to pivot. You don't know what's going to work and what isn't, but that's sort of my path too.
So you ended up selling this software for a huge chunk of change. Before that, were you already loaded? Were you already like successful, or was that the big shebang that made you that way?
No, I didn't have any money. I grew up in a middle-class family. I was very fortunate. My mother helped me through college, but no, I had nothing. When I got married, we couldn't even afford a dinner, so we ordered pizza into our home, invited our friends over. I talk about that a lot with my wife because she's been with me through that whole journey, but we really had nothing.
So can you maybe share with my audience? I call them the bomb squads, a bunch of entrepreneurs, business people, some of them blue collar, some of them white collar, but everybody asks me this question. I don't think I've gotten as much as you yet. So tell them, what'd you feel like the day that deal closed and you realized you do have money now? What's the difference?
You know, that's a great question, because I've talked to many other entrepreneurs over the years now that have gone through the similar experience. And I've come to a conclusion I think is important for everybody to understand. If you're an entrepreneur and all you have is the greed of money, you will never be successful. You will never succeed. What makes entrepreneurship work is an underlying dying passion to love what you're doing and want to compete in that space because you love it so much. Even though there's some guy in Mumbai or Shanghai trying to kick your ass, you're ready to compete. And that is what is the driving force. I woke up one morning, like everybody else that I met that went through the same experience, saying, shit, did I just sell this company for $4.2 billion? I'm rich. I didn't see it coming. I didn't care that much, to be honest with you. And the next day, with the same 9 founders, we went back into the office and looked at each other and said, what are we going to do next? Nobody was thinking of retiring. We just wanted to stay in the game. And that's, you know, I'm very fortunate because that first deal set me free, obviously. And to me, the reason you pursue entrepreneurship is to be in control of your time for the rest of your life. There's nothing more empowering than to have control over your time. And the only way you can have control over your time, one of the attributes is you have to have financial freedom. That means you set the agenda, you decide what you want to do. If you don't want to do it, you just cancel it. If you don't want to make that phone call, you don't have to. It's not arrogance. It's control over your most precious asset. Is not money, it's time. Because the older you get, the more money you have, but the less time you have. And that's when you start to understand time is more valuable than money. So the whole idea is not to squander time. And that's what I learned about that whole experience. Now, I've had many great deals since then and many big failures, but they don't change what I do. And it doesn't, I don't get up in the morning and say, wow, you know, how can I just make more money? That's not what I want to do. What are the things I want to do with my time? Do I want to be a better guitarist? Do I want to be a better watch collector? Do I want to, start a new company with a great entrepreneur? These are the things I like to do.
Kevin, what are the watches to buy if I don't want to lose money?
Oh, that's a great question. What we've all learned out of great surprise in the last 5 years is the watch market, a product that nobody needs anymore because your cell phone is a better keeper of time than your watch, but everybody wants a mechanical watch. And so they've become like modern art. They've become no different than collecting other pieces of art or whatever, but they've gone up more than the S&P 500. So the three horsemen of watch collecting is Audemars Piguet, Rolex, and Patek Philippe. Now, you can never lose money buying those watches. The problem is you can't buy those watches. They're almost impossible to get. However, there are many other brands that are moving up the feeding chain, and the hottest watchmaker in the world today is still alive. His name is F.P. Journe. His watches 22 years ago you could get for $8,000. Now they trade up to $2 million each.
Wow.
And so that kind of appreciation is really hard to find. But when you identify a new watchmaker, which is part of the whole idea of horology, the whole idea of being a collector and getting known around the world. So these younger watchmakers contact you to be their patron, and maybe they make their first 12 watches. And I always say to them, look, I'll finance the first dozen watches, but I want mine to be red. And I want a red dial. I want red hands. I want a red strap on it. You do that for me and make me one of a kind. I'm one of your guys.
Hey, why Mr. Wonderful? I'm sure Pete, you've been asked that before, but I've never heard. Why? Who named you that? And why do you call yourself, or why do people call you that?
Well, we think it was Barbara Cochran, on Shark Tank 15 years ago. We started, we had a taping, just trying the whole format out. Nobody knew what would happen with this thing. And I made my first offer for a royalty deal, and she facetiously said in skepticism, oh, aren't you just Mr. Wonderful? And I said, you know what? Yeah, I am. That's a good name. Let's roll with that. Now, we're trying to find that tape because I never expected this to happen. Most people don't know my name. They just call me Mr. Wonderful. When I show up at an airport or something and there's a limo driver waiting, it says Mr. Wonderful on the card. It happened to me recently in LA, and I said to the guy, do you know my name? He said, yeah, you're Mr. Wonderful. I said, no, my real name. He says, no, I don't care about your real name. You're Mr. Wonderful. I mean, that's right off the charts. That's very crazy.
Do you find any whack jobs stalking you?
I do get some of that. And I think that's part of the attributes of celebrity. It's years and years ago, more than 10 years ago, I remember the CEO of ABC Television, which was owned by Disney. They actually own a third of Shark Tank, and they air Shark Tank on Friday nights on ABC Network. He called me in his office in LA and said, I have a few topics to talk to you about, but I just wanted to start. How are you liking celebrity now? I said, why are you asking me that? He said, well, usually 4 years in, you start to see it fray a little bit. And I said to him, okay, that a little bit of that is happening. And I talked about when my family goes out for dinner, and my daughter lives in New York and my son is in San Francisco. And she at the time was really unhappy with people coming up and wanting pictures. Back then, there was a time when there was autographs, but now it's just pictures. And I'm always grateful to the fans Shark Tank has, always. And particularly with kids, I'll always stop and take a picture. The only time I can't do it is in airports because it's illegal in the security area to take pictures with your cell phone. A lot of people don't know that. I found out that the hard way. But anyways, she was commenting about it, but I'll tell you the end of that story. So that very night, we go home, go to the hotel, and the phone rings at 2 a.m. And I'm thinking it's an emergency. It's my daughter. And I'm thinking something bad has really happened. She says, look, Daddy, I'm outside of a nightclub. I got 5 of my girlfriends with me. I can't get in. The bouncer won't let us in, but he heard that you're the Shark Tank guy, Mr. Wonderful. Can you please talk to him on my cell phone and get us in? And I said, Savannah, you told me you hate celebrity. You never wanted this to enter your family. What is this? If you make me do this now, never bring this up again with me. Which is it going to be? You stay out there in the cold all night, or I get you in this club and you never talk about celebrity again? Which one do you think she chose? So my point is, it's a two-edged knife. It's good and it's bad, but overall, I'm pretty good with it. It's opened so many doors for me.
It's funny. Obviously, you're aware of Mike Tyson. One night I was out with him at a place, and I asked him, after all the shit, bro, do you think it's been worth it? He looked over and he goes, yeah. So celebrity, I'll tell you, Kevin, I like what you're saying, because celebrity, I'm my minuscule one, but I mean, I'm getting things and perks and whatnot to where I haven't got the crazies yet, fortunately, but I agree with you 1,000%. Now, because one day I'm going to exit this software company that I own right now. Is there, and other entrepreneurs listening, are going to exit. Is there anything that you would say, watch out for before you exit? Here's what you need to do to prepare. Because again, I exited one company, and when I got whacked, I had no idea about taxes. Like literally, I paid so much in taxes that I could have avoided. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, the first time you always get whacked because you don't know what you're doing. And I get that. What I've learned and why I'm so involved in businesses like Tax Hive, particularly that support entrepreneurs, is that it's the number one expense you have on your income statement. You don't think of it that way and you ignore it, but you have to plan. And today, I'm off the charts on this. I have meetings about taxes almost every 14 days. And I'm well prepared before the end of each quarter because I know I got to pay my taxes. I don't want to breach the tax code, but I know I can get a good interpretation of it and structurally prepare for it because I'm invested in over 30 companies now. And I'm always saying, okay, what's the best tax answer for this? How are we going to do it? Let's talk to the pros that know what they're doing. And I do this all the time now because I know it's my biggest expense. I know that with certainty, and people should realize that. If you're in business and you make money, your number one expense is taxes. That's just how it is. So you might as well focus on it.
It's funny, man. If I put a bunch of entrepreneurs on a panel and asked everybody what their biggest expense is, I'll bet you money they will not say taxes.
Well, they don't have it. They're not making money yet. The point is you never plan for it until all of a sudden you're profitable and you don't have a plan.
No,
There's no such thing as not having a plan for taxes. You have to have a plan.
Well, I'm talking about ones that are making money. They're still not going to say that. Like you're 100% right. People don't realize that that's an expense. Why? Because it's a given. And people aren't paying attention that that's an expense. I look at my, we have Voss water. I put kegs of beer in some of the rooms for the employees. People are like, you let them drink. They're adults, but I just want it to be googly and cool in here. So I have expenses draining out of here. If you were to ask me, Brad, what is your number one expense here? I probably would have said payroll. Or I probably would have said, something besides taxes. And I'll bet you a lot of entrepreneurs would also answer incorrectly because what you just said turned a light on, even though I'm a little bit more aware of it, most people aren't. So that's a huge thing. And by the way, your team told me before, Brad, if anybody on the show wants to go get a blueprint, send them to taxhive.com/real, REAL. And you guys will do a free tax blueprint for them to show them how much money they can be saving. So folks, if you guys own a business and you're out there walking around, trust me when I tell you taxes are massive. And if you want more money to expand and grow, save it. So go get the tax blueprint, the blueprint tax. I think it's called Blueprint Operation. What is it called?
Well, it's a blueprint specifically looking at your business. The whole idea of Tax Hive is to talk to an expert. And look, we've seen every kind of business. We've seen every sector, all 11 sectors of the economy. And when you're a growing business, most of your time is spent just trying to keep your horses going forward. You're not spending any time with pros about how you tax plan. So the whole idea of the blueprint was take a snapshot of where you are and then show you where you could get to and how much money you could save. The blueprint is about showing you the path to reducing your taxes and optimizing your taxes. Now, and almost 100% of the time, we find a ton of savings because people haven't done any work on this. They haven't spent any time on it. They haven't looked at it even once. And once you get in the mode of doing this, you should be checking in almost every quarter to optimize. The one thing you get when you're dealing with the U.S. government, they're going to pay taxes, you're going to die. Those are the two things that happen. But even the tax code itself is written for you to be able to optimize it. That's why they wrote it for you. The truth is, and a lot of people don't understand this, the IRS is not your enemy. they're the government that wants you to succeed. They only make money if you make money. I keep telling people that. And you have to fund the government and education, everything else. You can debate politics till the cows come home. But the IRS wants you to make more money. They want you to keep growing. They want you to be successful. That's how they get paid. I drill that into everybody's head. And no one in there says, oh, overpay your taxes. Nobody says that. You basically have to interpret the tax code based on your business. And that's what the blueprint is. So if you're listening to this and you haven't got a blueprint, get one. It's worth the time. That's the whole point.
And they made it free for anybody listening. Bomb Squad gets it free.
Why not do that? Listen, I don't endorse products I don't use. I just never do that. But managing taxes and planning for taxes, it's by the time you pay the taxes, you have to know you've optimized your scenario. You never want to pay the taxes not knowing whether you under or overpaid. Underpaying is worse than overpaying because you don't want to get audited. That's the whole idea.
And you want to be, in advance of it, because again, once I wrote a check for taxes, I'm like, someone said, how much did you pay? And I told them, and they're like, dude, you should have, trust structures. You should have all kinds of different things set up so you don't have to pay a lot of that. And I already paid it. So what do? Well, now you better hurry up and make a move for next year. So I would say right now, folks, go to taxhive.com/real and make sure you get your business optimization blueprint. And Kevin, we appreciate your team giving that to the Bomb Squad for free.
Hey, you want to spend an hour a week with me helping you become a business badass? Well, check out my group in the link below.
So every time you guys go into Shark Tank, because Damon invited me down once, I was in the back in the green room. A-Rod was there. I'm not sure if you were there or not, but I was kind of just staying out of the way. Every time you guys go down to do that, how does it work? Like, are you sitting there listening to 100 pitches before you get to go home?
Well, I was there actually when A-Rod was there. So you're very lucky because they don't let anybody on the set anymore. It started during the pandemic and now they figured out it's not efficient to put people wandering around the set. So it's pretty closed, but you saw it happen. Most of those pitches take about an hour. And so you only see 8 minutes of on television. We go through anywhere from 9 to 12 a day. And by the time the season's over, we'll have seen 200, 220, 230 pitches, and maybe 80% of those air. It really depends. And you just never know what you're going to get because we don't get to see these deals before you do. They come through that door and the first time we see it is when you do. And so that's the great thing about the show. It's the exploration. It's the journey and learning about these entrepreneurs, what their ideas are, what their plan is for growth and all of that. And then you make a decision if you're going to invest or not. But I've been working with Damon and Barbara and some of the other sharks for 15 years. I mean, we've been doing this a long time. We're in the middle of shooting season 15 right now. And I've always said this about Barbara. She's a great cook. I'm also a chef. And so when she lives in New York, we meet up. We often have dinner together. But the only reason she gets to the Shark Tank set in LA every year on time is I buy her a new broom.
Hey, that's funny. Hey, there's a rumor running around that you all missed on one massive one called Ring. You remember that? Ring?
Yeah, Jamie Ring. He went and they sold it to Amazon. I was the only guy that offered the $600K, but I wanted to put it in debt. Now, the funny thing about that deal, it's got to be a decade ago. Ring was sold for about $1.2 billion to Amazon. And Jamie stayed there quite a long time working for Bezos, but we became friends afterwards and we meet up every July 5th in Nantucket. And we have a lunch together. We invite all of our friends just to celebrate success in entrepreneurship. And we invite entrepreneurs that are on the island. Our two families with a third family there do it, the three of us. We've been doing it for a long time. And I see them every year. It's a great time. And we always talk about the one that got away. But I don't cry over spilt milk. I still call him my little grasshopper.
Had you bought into that deal, what would your 600K turned into?
Oh, 280 million, but who's counting?
Hey, I'm sure you're familiar with Gary Vee. Gary Vee, passed on Uber like several times, so don't feel bad.
Yeah. We all have the trout that got off the hook. Like there's no question about it, but I understand it. But I don't cry over spilt milk, and I'm always surprised now, particularly in the context of Shark Tank. I might invest in 15 deals. And I think I think I can identify the winners each year. And two of them are going to be huge hits. They're never the ones that I try and pick. It's never that case. That's why I got to have diversification. It's some crazy deal that I never saw coming that sells for $100 million. The last one was Base Paws Cat DNA. I thought it was a joke, but it ended up being very valuable because during the pandemic, there's 110 million cats, and that cat DNA test can extend their lives by 30%, and it exploded, and one of the big pharmaceutical companies bought it. So you just don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea, and you need to back a bunch of horses in a race. You're betting on that jockey and that horse, and you don't know who's going to finish first.
Hey, if someone were to see you on the street and try to pitch you, are you handcuffed as far as what you're able to invest in because of that show, or no?
No. I do many deals outside of Shark Tank, but when it comes to consumer good or service, think about the advantage you have if it's a Shark Tank deal. Most companies in America fail. 8 out of 10 fail in the first 3 years for one reason. They're never able to get their customer acquisition cost below the lifetime value of the customer, a fancy way of saying they go bankrupt advertising. When you get on Shark Tank, you get millions of people seeing your product the first time the night it airs, but then another 100 million eyeballs in syndication. Your customer acquisition cost sometimes goes to zero. And so it's a huge advantage. So if you're going to pitch me something that should be on Shark Tank, get on Shark Tank, because I'd much rather buy it there where I get the advantage of the platform. That's the secret sauce of Shark Tank. That's why it works. And that's why so many people want to get on there. That's one heck of a powerful platform.
Yeah, I've seen people get on there just to basically advertise their product and service with no intention of a deal. What do you call those people?
Exactly. That's correct. And so we often don't air those ones because we call them gold diggers. And we know that they don't want a deal, or they price it so stupidly that we can't invest. And we just don't air it. So if you're a gold digger, don't try that. 9 out of 10 times they're going to catch you and you just never got on the air.
Kevin, you founded O'Leary Financial Group. You also have investment platforms. If somebody wants to throw money into your investment platform, meaning, hey, here's $1 million, I'm accredited. Here's $1 million. I want to make money with you. Do you have that available or no?
No, I do indexes for sovereign wealth and pensions. So I have ETFs in the market. But the idea I wanted to share with your viewers today that's the most important right now are any entrepreneur that had W-2 employees in 2020 or 2021. I discovered this about a year ago for my companies. So during the pandemic, we had the PPP program, and pretty well all of my companies called their bank managers and we got our PPP loans. But at the same time, the government had a program called the Employee Retention Credit. And it was not like a PPP. You couldn't call your bank manager. You had to modify your tax returns in 2020 and 2021 around payroll taxes. So you had to actually resubmit your taxes. But you got up to $26,000 per employee. So I thought that I'd heard, and like many other people got it wrong, that if you took the PPP, you didn't qualify for the ERC, until I ran into somebody in actually North Dakota that said, no, you're wrong. They changed the laws in early 2021. You can have both. When I discovered that, I went to town on this and I set up what's called the Wonder Trust. And so Wonder Trust is a bunch of specialists that will figure out real live people, because you can't do this on your own. It's so complicated to do this filing. The program is 170 pages long. So you have to understand how to qualify. But there's Wonder Trust. You can log on there, and I've set it up for TaxHive. It's TaxHive/Wonder Trust. Go there and talk to an expert for about 10, 20 minutes. You might have talked to them a couple of times. Explain your situation, how many employees you had on W-2s in 2020 and 2021. And if you qualify, we'll process this return for you. And depending on how complicated it is, you'll pay us after you receive your ERC check. So you don't put anything up front. You should never pay up front for an ERC proposal, because you have to have someone. It's going to take 5-6 months to get it, but you need a lot of experts. You need the infrastructure to do it. And I've done this with countless companies now. And so it's not around forever. In fact, it starts to wear out or end in 11 months. So if you're listening to me on this and you have any employees, anywhere from 5 to 500, Go to taxhive.com/Wonder Trust and check it out. Book an appointment, do it online, and just talk to them for 5 minutes, and they'll find out if you can qualify for it. Because the cost of capital now, because of the rapid rate hikes by the Fed, is 5 times what it was 2 years ago for entrepreneurs. And this is cash. There's no strings tied to it. It's capital for your business. You can apply it. No cost to it.
It's not a loan,
folks.
folks.
Get this first. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, and it's not a loan. You know, I'm very familiar with that, Kevin. I had a guy here a couple years ago on a podcast, and he was telling me about it, and I'm like, dude, this can't be true. If this is true, you know, everybody needs to know about it. So he said it was true. I got 1.1 million back for one of my companies, Lightspeed VT. It's totally true. There's no loan, and a lot of people. My CPA told me we don't qualify. We don't qualify because we made money. We didn't lose money. And there was all these reasons. And then they changed it. So I'm telling you guys right now, if you want a big chunk of change, it's not a loan. Go do what Kevin just said. Taxhive.com/Wonder Trust. Or I could give out a link. And by the way, Kevin, between me and you, I put out a link on the podcast. I got back over $70 million for people listening. So again, I wish
put that link on.
Hey, it's not, and it's,
this matters to us. I mean, no question. I mean, the thing about this program is nobody knows about it. I've become Mr. ERC on the television waves. I'm advertising everywhere saying, if you're an entrepreneur and you had a business, you got to know about this, because you're right. A lot of CPAs think that A, if you took the PPP, you don't get it, but B, if you didn't lose money, that's not the case. There's all kinds of changes, as you just detailed, that they put out in 2021 to help you, because they want you now to keep this business going and people employed as things get tighter in the capital markets.
Yeah, not only that, it doesn't hurt you. It takes 5 seconds to figure out what you qualify for. So go do that. Kevin, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time today. You're always welcome back on Drop Bombs. If you ever feel like, you know, you're promoting a book or anything like that, you're always welcome back, folks. Remember, go to taxhive.com/real, get a business optimization blueprint so you can save immediate money on taxes, and then go to taxhive.com/Wonder Trust and see if you got a shitload of money coming back from the government. And it's not a loan. Kevin, appreciate you coming in. Continue to be Mr. Wonderful, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and keep up the good work. You're doing a great thing.
Thanks, folks, and as always, until next time, keep it real.
Because let me tell you something. I know myself. I don't need you to like me for me to like me. And you don't need anyone else to like you for you to like you. And so I think that's the most powerful thing I can give you guys is the ability to, number one, get to know yourself, get to like yourself.